the full title of this was like the spiritual heritage of the U.S. Capitol.
The full title is The Spiritual Heritage of the United States Capitol. Okay. And then there's like one of those star stamp type things right underneath it that says 2 hours.
It's like a Girls Gone Wild tape.
Yeah.
But
more movies should do that. Just excitedly advertise the runtime on the front.
Yeah, because nowadays every movie would be like 3 hours. It's like, what? Well, shall we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, is this a bonus episode or no? I don't remember.
This is a free episode.
Okay.
This is going to be on the free feed. Everyone is going to hear about the secret history of the United States that they have tried to keep a secret, until the Wallbuilders learned us a thing or two.
Finally, the Wallbuilders tore down the wall.
Yeah,
that was preventing us from hidden knowledge, important knowledge.
Okay, this is on this is honestly a theme I wanted to discuss as this discussion goes on, because like they've modeled their whole brand around something that metaphorically divides and contains. And yet their apparent MO is to share, is to enlighten. And I just want to know where they're coming from. There's a lot of very interesting like contradictions in what they say about themselves. And I'm excited to tease those out. I'm fascinated by the Wallbuilders. But let's start the show, shall we?
Yes, we should.
Yes. Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. And hey, if your dog is currently cowering behind your couch right now, happy 4th of July to you. It is the greatest American holiday. We've got the grill heating up. I don't know how to grill. In the background here at the Boys Bible Study compound.
The turkey's in the oven.
Exactly. Yeah, the turkey's in the oven. The stockings are hung by the chimney with care. And
chestnuts are roasting on the open grill.
Yeah. And we are ready for the 4th of July. As always, Ash here with my co-host,
Scott.
And unfortunately, our co-host, Julian, could not be here today. He is busy.
He's so patriotic that 4th of July is a whole week for him, so he couldn't be here.
Yes. And it's a holy week as well. It's a week of like remembrance and reflection. You know, he's not partying. Like he's thinking about what makes this country strong. So, that's right. All well and good. Like we respect his religious freedom. So Scott and I are here, obviously on our 4th of July episode, we love to look at media that talks about Christianity from an American perspective. And Scott, you found this incredible documentary, very enlightening. I learned a lot about the Christian foundations of the United States.
So did I. I couldn't believe it. It was more than I was expecting. More information than I was ready for my brain to take in, I would say. A lot of details.
Clocking in at 2 hours of nonstop facts of, the Christian origins of the United States. This is a film by an organization called Wallbuilders, who we will attempt to explore in just a moment. This film was called A Spiritual Heritage Tour of the United States Capitol. It's hosted by David Barton of Wallbuilders, and you're going to learn a lot. But first, we should try our best to figure out who the fuck the Wallbuilders are, who they are, what they do, why we should be listening to them.
Well, let me tell you what the back of the DVD says.
Please.
David Barton is the founder of Wallbuilders an organization dedicated to restoring America's constitutional, moral, and religious foundations. As stated by George Washington, David believes that the propitious smiles of heaven can never be expected on a nation which disregards the eternal rules of order and right which heaven itself has ordained.
What was the word he used in the beginning? He loves words like that. It was like propitious.
Propitious. I did like a triple take in my head real fast. I was like, is that... Okay, no, you just have never seen that word before. Propitious.
Yeah, I mean, he has a good vocabulary. I wrote literally the first line in my notes is when on the tape or on the DVD when he's looking at the U.S. Capitol building and he says, "What a majestic edifice." It's like, okay, SAT words over here.
The Capitol building of the United States of America. What a majestic edifice.
I'm looking at, the David Barton wiki. I'm looking at the Wallbuilders website. And, as Scott said, what they basically are is they believe that America has strayed from its original Christian roots. And like that is a argument of this Spiritual Heritage Tour DVD, which we'll talk about a lot. That basically the current spirit of American culture does not pay respect to the fact that when America started, yes, there's an amendment that says you can practice whatever religion you want. But the fact is the United States was founded on Christian principles. And he made a whole organization to talk about this.
It's important to nail this down, though, too, because not everyone agrees about what the forefathers believe clearly, as as David covers in this DVD. But he makes it clear he reminds us that everyone in the United States, no matter who you are, does agree that the forefathers were these pure beings of light that had the best intentions for everyone and wanted to make the perfect society for all. And everybody knows this. So if you can show that they were Christians, then that means that's the right way to do everything. Evangelical Christians, because he specifically does say an evangelical perspective multiple times.
Right. Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective that he takes, but I still want to know, and we're literally not going to be able to answer this question. I still want to know, even if we understand that that's what the Wallbuilders are, that's what they believe, why? Where are they getting the money? What are they doing with the money? They're making movies. They have a website. I mean, we've said many times on this show that, like, if you're going to do something, you might as well just do that. I mean, that does make the world a better place, just in general. So, I mean, that's enough, really. I mean, everyone should have a weird organization from which they put out, like, film propaganda. Like, the Wallbuilders are just one of many examples of this. But, like, a question you're going to hear me ask many times throughout the rest of our discussion is, and then what? Because throughout this entire fucking documentary, David Barton and the Wallbuilders are saying all this stuff. Oh, the founding fathers, they weren't Unitarians. They were evangelical Christians. Okay. So then what? What am I supposed to do with that?
Well, you are supposed to recognize that is the true foundation of a working society.
Okay. So I do. I'm on board. Yes.
Oh, great.
So then what?
So we need to put God back in schools. I don't know if you saw, but there is some state that just put the 10 Commandments back in every classroom, I think.
What? Every classroom?
Yeah, I just saw this passing in my feed in like the past 24 hours.
Oh, cool. Let me look it up.
one of the, I don't remember which state it was, but it was one where it was like
Ooh, Louisiana.
Yes.
Classrooms have to display the 10 Commandments. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I literally love it. Like I think that's what people don't understand. Like I think it's awesome that like they made a law that was just like the classroom has to have the 10 Commandments in it. Okay. What is that supposed to do?
I love too that like putting the 10 Commandments on like state property like that in the first place was just a promo gag for like another movie. Like in the first place, the only reason that was happening is because they were doing it for the, I think, Cecil B. DeMille movie. Was it called The 10 Commandments? Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It all comes back to movies.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
Movies literally are basically the closest thing to magical power that we have as human beings. They like change the world.
Some people just obsess over the cinematic experience that they feel entitled to get.
Yeah.
It's understandable. You want to like live it out for real, you know? You want to like go get your Harry Potter wand and like point at stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's very intoxicating. So it's like I can't blame people for that. But
right, like make it, you know, like for some people like Halloween is every day. And for other people, they're like doing a different cinematic universe, a different holiday universe.
Yeah, every day is Harry Potter, or as I think that's a great example. For the Wallbuilders, every day is the damn 4th of July. And power to them, I guess. But as we discuss this documentary, a question that I will probably ask an annoying amount of times, and one that I would like our listeners to keep in their heads is, and then what? Because you know they make a lot of compelling points. Anyway, we'll talk about this documentary and we'll nail down some of their main arguments here. But yeah, thing to keep in mind: there's this a strange organization called the Wallbuilders. It appears to be 5 men wearing suits, and they make movies about how George Washington was an evangelical Christian.
Yes.
That seems to be what they do. To what end? We will have to try to decide that as we engage with their, perhaps their magnum opus, which is once again called the Spiritual Heritage Tour of the United States Capitol. So
that's great. Did you look at their website yet?
Yeah, I had it up before we got on the call today. I'm also looking at David Barton's Wikipedia page. Got to say, the David Barton Wikipedia page is written with a lot of bias. They don't like him. They say he is a pseudo-historian, which I think seems very cold. This is very funny. In 1995, in response to a criticism by historian Robert Alley, Barton conceded in an online article that he had not located primary sources for 11 alleged quotations from James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and U.S. Supreme Court decisions, but maintained that the quotes were completely consistent with the views of the founders. Now, hold on a second. The whole point of this fucking documentary was like, no, we look at primary sources, but they just be writing things? I trusted them.
You know, well, yeah, especially because throughout this documentary, he is holding up documents that they look like originals. And he's definitely implying that they're originals. Like he'll be like, this is a letter that Martha sent to George Washington about this specific topic. Yeah. And she said he's the most devout Christian that I've ever had the pleasure of sleeping with, or whatever.
Yes, I trusted him. Like I was nodding and smiling. I was like, yes, that is a 400-year-old book that they're letting you touch.
Yeah.
But I guess in 1995 he was like, okay, you got me. There are some quotations that I just made up, but I don't know. It's very annoying. I can understand if you're David Barton, you're very annoyed because like he keeps quoting all these books. So basically, I think a big premise of the Wallbuilders is that like there's a bunch of historians who wrote books in like the 90s, and like I feel like it was around that time because the 90s was a time where a lot of people were feeling very like cynical, and they were trying to be like, oh, what they told you isn't true. So there were a lot of books written about how like what you learned in American history class was a lie. And like there were books talking about how the founding fathers were deists.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess David Barton was just like, what's all this? And so, you know, he went to the Capitol to find out.
Right. Get to the bottom of it. And that makes sense
Right.
based on those 90s things, because this was made in 1999. So this is definitely his direct response to that.
Yeah, I think this is, it's a response to 90s cynicism, historical cynicism.
And now it's up there in the greats of many other 2-hour-long things from 1999. But the Wallbuilders, they are expressly say on their website that they will help you discover the intent of our founding fathers regarding freedom, justice, and equality.
Okay.
So he's getting to the bottom of their Intent beyond what they may have said.
Right.
He props them
channels
up on
them.
a stack of Bibles and says, they said this on a stack of Bibles.
Yes, like literally. Oh, and also circling back to something you pointed out, like one of the first things of the discussion that I didn't get to really respond to, but another, you know, not only is he allegedly reviewing primary sources trying to uncover these truths about the founding fathers, but he really does have an attitude like the founding fathers are like American demigods.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally.
I'm not trying to be like, listen, I think the founding fathers of the United States were great men. I mean, they started a country. Like, that's pretty remarkable. Like, you have to have a lot of strength and like force of will and strength of character. And a lot of them, you know, were willing to die for what they believed in and all these things. And like, you know, those are not qualities you see much every day. Like, I genuinely unironically think that like, yes, these were amazing men. And I'm really glad they did what they did because I love the United States of America. I love Hollywood, baby. We wouldn't have Hollywood if they didn't found the United States of America. So keep that in mind, all you know, leftists out there who are burning the American flag. Like, you wouldn't be able to watch Furiosa if, you know, George Washington hadn't did all that shit. So
it's true.
Put some respect on the name. That being said, he literally talks about them the way that, like, I would say with the sense of awe that Greek myths talk about, like Orpheus going into the underworld. Like they don't feel human.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. These mythical demigods. I mean, that's really is how he's setting them up.
I don't know what I want, I guess, from David Barton and the Wallbuilders, because it's like, yeah, obviously it's not that I want him to be like, oh yeah, George Washington was rude, or, you know, so-and-so owned slaves or whatever. Like, obviously that's true. But I guess I just want him to like just not talk about them like they're Jesus.
Right. And if he is trying to show their intent, I believe that, but he's trying to say that their intent is pure because they're pure. And I don't think you need to do that.
I completely agree. Like, that's just not realistic. I think, you know, the Wallbuilders and David Barton, they never officially come out and say what they're trying to say. But what I think that is basically, if we were Christians, then we would do everything right. And what does right mean? I mean, it obviously means conforming to David's like particular sense of political values, which he never fully describes. You know, to him, Christian has one meaning, and it's the meaning that he ascribes to it. It's not the idea that like you could be a Christian and you can literally be a Christian and be on the right and be a Christian and be on the left and use Christian tenets to justify your beliefs. And there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, well, that's a cool thing with going to the forefathers is because it's like kind of more partisan in its approach, where he's like, it's just a Christian thing. So you can, because he's ultimately talking about it sort of vaguely, like if you assume that you would think similarly to the forefathers, then that's all you need. Like there's no,
that's all you need.
You know, he says a lot of words throughout this, but it's like a say less situation that he is pulling off with like how what the actual belief system is, because then you can kind of apply it to yourself.
Right.
So that's the smart move for his documentary.
It is.
Their intent is your intent.
Yes. It's fan fiction. You can just ascribe yourself. You can describe. I'm not saying it's fan fiction because some of the details are necessarily inaccurate. It's just because you're ascribing yourself to historical figures who you've never met. Let's talk about some of the content of this documentary, because I feel like that might help us, sort of explicate these points. There's quite a lot.
Okay.
I took a lot of notes.
I did
some
too.
of it was very tedious. And I obviously want to hit like big pictures, but I think that I'll start at the beginning, even though, we're surely not going to work through this entire documentary. I'll start at the beginning, and this will kind of give a clue to what the content of the documentary is too. So it opens up and he's like, he's in the Capitol building. They let David in the Capitol building. I don't know if anyone knows he's there, but he got in somehow. He snuck in through a back door and brought a camera. And he's having a night in the museum style.
Bill Clinton was getting blown in the other room, and he snuck in.
Yeah, he wasn't watching the security camera.
Exactly, it's his job. People don't know that. There's a couple hours. That's part of the president's job.
Yes, it is. You're on a shift like anyone else. You don't have to do it the whole. Well, that's why you have a vice president. You don't have to do it the whole time, but you kind of have to divvy it up. So the documentary opens. He's like, "This is the rotunda." Okay, let's look around at the rotunda. We're literally going to take a tour through the Capitol building. We're going to look at different elements of the Capitol building. You're going to see how Christian it is, and this is going to make you do ? We'll have to find out. We're in the rotunda. The rotunda is so big that you could fit the Statue of Liberty in the room. That's pretty amazing. I didn't know that. They have a painting of the baptism of Pocahontas in there. They have many oil paintings. And this is a fact I found interesting. They have a painting of the baptism of Pocahontas because she was one of the first converts to Christianity recorded in the New World. And she changed her name to Rebecca with a K, which is honestly very gothy of her. So this is meant to show something that Scott said earlier, which is that the mission of America is evangelical in nature. That they came to America and said, we want to make the indigenous people here into Christians. And so David Barton is saying that the intentional hanging of this painting in the rotunda is to signify America's evangelical project.
They were persecuted in another land in Europe for their religious beliefs. And so they took those beliefs to the New World to, what's the word I'm looking for? Help
be annoying.
The people there learn the truth.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's like, when you're on a message board and you're so annoying on that message board that everyone complains and you finally get banned. And then you start your own message board and, less people join, but you're like the king of that message board. That's sort of what America was.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I relate to it. That's why I feel so patriotic of the 4th of July, because like I know what it's like to be a hated user of a message board. Because I've done that.
That's what the 4th of July is all about. And the
It
fireworks
really
represent
is.
you blowing up the server that held the old message board.
Yeah. Yeah, the fireworks represent me saying something in a thread so annoying that I had 2 pages of people telling me to fuck off afterwards, which has happened to me before.
Well, hey, people don't like hearing the truth, Ash.
Exactly. And that's sort of what the Wallbuilders are all about. They're all about saying you don't want to hear the
listeners,
truth.
Ash actually said George Washington is most definitely not a deist, and
Yes.
people just went
And
off.
everyone was
They
like,
couldn't
fuck
handle
you, fuck you,
that.
fuck you.
They couldn't handle that truth. I remember what I was going to say earlier is that deist supposedly was a term for you would kind of use that codedly to be like, I'm atheist.
Huh.
So it
You
was
mean
like a safe
historically?
way to say, like, I don't, at like around the time, I guess. So like guys saying they're deists, David Barton, who I think was being softer than he wanted to fully admit, because he was saying, well, it means you kind of generally believe. How did he say it? It was like there generally could be a God, which is what that sounds like. Deist. You like think, sure, there's God. I don't know what the details are. But yeah, apparently that's just what you would say to be like, I don't know.
What's a socially acceptable way to be an atheist or agnostic at the time? That's interesting. But I want to know, and mind you, the only research I did on this is watching the Wallbuilders documentary. So I have no other sources here. But I mean, I think it's pretty fucking clear that a lot of these guys were Christian.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see, like, I haven't read the other historians who are like, no, they are deists. Here's why. And they produced some letter from Ben Franklin being like, I think we should put up a statue of Baphomet in the courthouse or whatever he said. That's very possible. But
that would be a funny thing to say to like make up a letter on like old paper, just do like a shitty job in Photoshop and send it to David Barton and be like, what do you make of this? My college professor showed it to me.
And it's like
Thomas Jefferson saying that Baphomet should be put up in the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, you add some extra like E's and O's so it looks authentic, and you just like photocopy it. And David Barton would have a fit.
But it turns out Alexander Hamilton wanted the 10 Commandments removed from Bob Jones University. It says it right here.
Yeah, that's what it says. I don't know what to tell you. But like, what I'm trying to say is like, I don't know. They sound pretty Christian to me.
Yeah.
I don't. Who cares? They were Christians. Like, so what?
Because a big note for me, I got to go through pages here to find it. One of the people was saying, well, he was quoting one of the people saying that if everybody just read the Bible, if everybody took it seriously, there would be no need for like laws really, because people would already be following laws, divine laws.
Yeah, that was an interesting argument.
Public utility pleads most forcibly for the general distribution of the Holy Scriptures. These can alone secure to society order and peace, and to our courts of justice and constitutions of government, purity, stability, and usefulness. In vain, without the Bible, we increase penal laws and draw entrenchments around our institutions. Bibles are strong entrenchments. Where they abound, men cannot pursue wicked courses.
So I guess, like, I'm asking, so what? I guess that one of the arguments of this documentary is literally that, like, well, if everyone were Christian, then we wouldn't need as much government.
Yeah.
Because we would trust the populace to maintain themselves with a conduct that we wouldn't have to codify.
Right. The Bible is the best thing to prevent crime, he said.
I
What do you
mean,
think?
I think that, like, yeah, for some people, Christians do bad stuff all the time.
Yeah. It's true.
Christians
it is kind
do
of the
good
point.
stuff. Christians do good stuff all the time too. They're not all bad, certainly not.
Yeah.
But
No,
there
but
are Christians who kill people.
You brought that up recently on it was the last episode that I couldn't make. But
the Jubilee episode?
Yeah. But you were saying on that, like, that's kind of the point, that like Jesus forgives you and that everybody fucks up all the time, and it's okay.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to hold yourself to standards of conduct, but what it does mean is that you are acknowledging, by nature of being a Christian, that you are bound to sin and bound to make mortal errors, you know, in moments of passion, imperfection. Like that. The thing is that, again, he paints the founding fathers as these transcended moral figures. They have legitimately overcome human passions and have become, you know, large, almost like, not to bring in another religion, but almost like Buddha-like or saint-like figures. And I think he really thinks that for your average person, that understanding of the Bible and the Christian path will make you into that. You will basically like ascend. You will not have sexual urges. You will not have violent urges. You will not feel hateful. That's not going to happen. Well,
I would like to see him flesh out more of these guys' lives, because what we haven't gotten into is that this documentary is a list of everyone he considers a forefather. So he probably talks about George Washington the most, who we're all familiar with, of course.
Love the guy.
And the Alexander Hamilton reenactment is maybe the most memorable. Those are big names. But he really gets into the weeds of listing off people, being like pointing into these paintings, being like, and you know who that is? You know who that is? And all these guys look the same. They all have the same type of wig and like button up thing, and their faces are all painted the exact same way. But I didn't know who they were. I felt so embarrassed. I was like, what did they even teach me in history as a student?
Yeah, he's not wrong about that. Yeah, he talks about that. That's a good point. You know, a big thing of his is like, look at these paintings. Oh, you don't know who Dr. John Witherspoon was? Where did you go to school? A barn? I'm like, well, I guess so. I guess public school, they just taught me how to have gay sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took gay sex 101 through 401. And unfortunately, I didn't learn who Charles Thompson was. Did you know that Charles Thompson translated the Greek Septuagint to English?
Amazing.
Creating the first American Bible? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wait, was that the one that was the Geneva Bible? Which one was the Geneva Bible?
I believe so. No, the Geneva Bible is the one, that was the Bible that the Pilgrims used in England before they moved.
Okay.
I say that like someone who moved from like Echo Park to Silver Lake, but you know, the Geneva Bible. Okay, we're jumping around obviously, but that's fine. You know, we learned lots of facts. The Geneva Bible was the Bible that the Pilgrims made that had all the nasty notes in the margins.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of swaggy. Okay, so the Wallbuilders drop on us some cool biblical history. They talk about the Geneva Bible, and it literally was a Bible with nasty notes in the margins. It's like a Bible, a translation of the Bible, and then in the margins, they wrote all this stuff about like how the Bible says there shouldn't be kings, and how like the Bible says like we should be allowed to like own private property and like blah, 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 because, you know, the king wouldn't let them do that. And then the King James Bible was literally like a reaction to the Geneva Bible. It was like, no, the British people banned all productions of Bibles that wasn't authorized directly by the the crown, and it codified the King James Bible, which they just took out the nasty notes, which is like on. Sorry, go on.
No, I think I was just gonna have the same thought you were. With like, is he wrong? Like maybe his reasons are wrong, but is what he's doing wrong? To like take out the add-ons, the non-divine add-ons.
Right. That's interesting because it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe not everyone wants to read your nasty little notes. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe I can make my own notes.
Yeah, maybe you should just give people a Bible and then they can make their own notes. Again, I'm happy about the Geneva Bible because in some way it led to the foundation of, the country where I can, wear sweatpants when I go to In-N-Out.
Right.
So happy about that. But
what are they even? I mean, I got an idea.
We don't need
I'm gonna start selling a 1,000-page blank paged book, and I'm gonna title it the Geneva Bible. You just write whatever you want in there.
You can just write whatever you want. You can make your own damn Bible. You can make your own damn Bible. I was saying though that now that I learned that the King James Bible was like a work of like monarchist suppression over the American spirit, I feel a little justified in like kind of not fucking with the King James Bible personally. Like I think people like it because it sounds the most regal. Like so some Christians, they're like, oh, well, the King James Bible is the best because it's like the prettiest. But it says like, but
disagree.
Thou wilt blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's not for me, dude. I'm a fucking NIV. I'm such a Lutheran, bro. Like I just want it to be plain spoken. I want it to be understandable. I don't mind it sounding a little contemporary as long as it's like plain and direct and understandable. I'm an NIV freak.
The original full version is like mostly ancient Greek, right?
Something like that. Greek and Aramaic?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something like that. So like the point is like when we have our translations today, the point's that like it makes sense for how we communicate today as best we can. Right. So like pretending that King James is that is a little silly.
It's silly. It's very silly. But at the same time, and listen, I'm nonpartisan. I can see things both ways. I can also understand why King James was like, stop writing your nasty words in the Bible. You're not allowed to do that.
You cannot own property. Ridiculous. Doesn't even make sense.
Okay, speaking of the owning property thing, another conclusion that the Wallbuilders, again, I think kind of in a very cowardly manner, don't come out and just say, but what I think they're trying to say is that the American style of capitalist free market economy is the closest to biblical truths. That's what they say. And this argument is hidden in all this stuff where he's like, well, in the Geneva Bible, it says that. And then the evil King James Bible, it suppressed that. And like later on, like toward the end of the documentary, he talks about that some more. Let me see if I can find my notes about that.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Like the Geneva Bible is the original one that like led to the pursuit of America and where we are today.
I believe that's the thread that he's trying to weave.
Intent. What's the intent? That's what we're getting at.
Right. Which intent obviously means a lot to, Mr. Barton, because like
and what motivates that intent.
Right. Because as we learned from Wikipedia, he apparently just does not have primary sources for some of his quotes, but he was like, that's fine because like I got the intent correct.
Man, that's crazy. Like he really is like holding up random documents the whole documentary. You're just like, when is that book from? What's that piece of paper from?
He's like,
everything looks
this is
so
from
old.
800 years ago. And you're like, okay, I take your word for it. Like, I don't know. Like I'm watching your documentary.
Gloves, just holding it up while not looking at it. Like, don't rip it.
Yeah, are they letting you touch that with your grimy ass hands? Like, come on.
Yeah. He just went in there. Well, Bill Clinton wasn't looking at the security cameras.
Yeah.
It's crazy what he got away with.
Yeah, he got a lot of footage. He really
He
did.
spent so much time in the statuary hall.
Yeah.
I noticed anytime he was next to his statue, he was like putting his hands on the statue's feet. Maybe I'm like reading too much into that. But
I didn't notice that. That's funny.
it happened consistently.
Who is letting him? Who gave him access?
I don't know.
When was
He
there
knows
nobody
people.
in the Capitol building?
He's got some inside guys and Wallbuilders.
I kind of think so. Actually, now that I'm thinking about the logistics of this documentary, are pretty amazing. They literally they let a man have a pajama party in the Capitol building alone and film a movie.
He's probably in like the same like American period piece fan fiction book club as like some other guys who work at the White House.
That honestly, I mean, they're obviously getting money from donors. Like, I don't understand how they make their money, but you know, they must. The only way I can possibly think of them getting money is that they have donors who are, you know, rich conservative Christians who are basically like, if I donate to these guys, then they are preserving the Christian history of our country. So, yeah, they must have had a guy on the inside.
I'm looking at their website again. I'm trying to see if they say anything about how they get money.
That would be interesting. In the spirit of just some other people they mention and some of their unique American contributions, did you know that Dr. John Witherspoon was a gospel minister, one of the signers or the voters? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But he was responsible for the first family Bible, like a Bible printed in the United States that was like small enough that, you know, a consumer could buy it. It wasn't just like some giant book.
Right. Because before that, there were really big ones that you would mostly only see in churches that he said would sometimes be like changed to the pulpits.
Right. And there's a bunch of other shit, like Ethan Allen, big fan of his furniture. When he captured Fort Ticonderoga, he fucking captured like the British officer, and they were like, "Who sent you?" And he was like, "Jehovah." So they had a fucking JW.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. He should have acknowledged that.
Yeah, the JWs they had their claws all over the the founding of the United States.
That's amazing.
So like, if these stories are true, which, I mean, why would Mr. Barton lie to me? So, you know, other than to promote his like very pointed political agenda, then, I mean, yeah, these guys were Christian and they were very interesting. Okay, John Quincy Adams read the whole Bible once per year. He wrote a book on how to study the Bible. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, he had
some
that
of these,
beautiful.
you know,
He preached on July 4th in his reenactment.
oh right,
It was beautiful.
He also, so speaking of John Quincy Adams, another thing about him, which this kind of goes back to what we were saying about all of the founding fathers being like enlightened beings. Something about John Quincy Adams is that they spend a lot of time talking about how John Quincy Adams died, which is that he was literally like serving in Congress when he died. And when he died, his like last recorded words were, I believe I'm quoting this right, he said like, "This is the end of the world. I am composed." And apparently in that time, it was like seen as very virtuous to like have a very graceful death, because it meant that like you were a Christian. Like if you died, that you just like acknowledged that you were going to the next life and you weren't scared.
Yeah.
So again, the idea that like all of these founding fathers, they had like perfect, like graceful deaths where they were just like, yes, I will be with God now. And
So
that's,
if
if we all
was
read the Bible, that's what it would be like.
Fortunately, nobody would have any reason to just write that anyway about somebody out of respect for their death.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's written in a book, and then you're just like, well, those were his last words, I guess.
Yeah.
Did they write their last words in advance?
Maybe. Or you have like your writer do work on it with you. Like if you're still in office.
Workshop it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's smart.
But,
that's got to be done. My favorite reenactment, my favorite story was of Daniel Webster, who remembered so much of the Bible as a boy that he got a jackknife. I thought that was an interesting story to tell.
Yes.
And his teacher
Daniel
was like,
Webster.
I can't believe how much of the Bible this guy remembers.
I am going to give him a jackknife. This is in the series of he's just info dumping the Christian facts about the founding fathers, and like as you're watching the documentary, you're like, yeah, that's all impressive, and then like I didn't even really consider the silliness of the jackknife story until you mentioned it just now. It's like, and Daniel Webster was so Christian that his teacher gave him a knife. And you're like, oh, okay.
He was so Christian that he was good at school.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Like, but yeah, and we will certainly have more just like facts about some of these fine folks to share. But I think an important thing to mention about this documentary is that legitimately the best part about it, like totally unironically, are that it contained very high quality historical reenactments of moments in the lives of these founding fathers, which we love to see in Christian Americana.
Yeah, we came for the reenactments, let's be honest. And that was the reenactments didn't start until like 23 minutes into this.
Yeah.
And I really felt those 23 minutes until the reenactments got going. And then I was like, okay, it was all worth it.
Can I get a fucking powdered wig in this bitch? Somebody, please, God. And then you finally see it and you're like, oof, okay, I can take a sigh of relief, you know?
The way they did the voiceovers too, sometimes when people were like sort of talking, it was very like Drunk History. I wonder if they saw this.
Ooh, is Drunk History a Wallbuilders production?
Interesting. Oh wow, that's very covert. That's smart.
Very covert. Very covert.
It's more it's kind of it's pretty comparable fan fiction, really. Really, like honestly.
Yeah.
Like they're embellishing here and there, but they're mostly trying to represent what happened.
The spirit.
Yeah.
The intent.
Exactly.
And we understand that. In
the spirit
in Drunk
of the
History.
Intent.
In Drunk History, we, the viewers, we understand that some embellishment is taking place. That's part of the joke of the show. In Wallbuilders, we also do, but we pretend that we don't.
Right.
But functionally, it's like a very similar product.
Yeah.
But the reenactments are really, really good. I did enjoy. I enjoyed many of them. I liked the jackknife. I liked Ethan Allen capturing Fort Ticonderoga for Jehovah. You know what I really liked? I really liked Pastor Muhlenberg. Do you know about Pastor Muhlenberg?
Which one was he? Which one was that?
He was the one who first of all, before I say this, I'm just looking up a fact about Muhlenberg. I want to see which Muhlenberg College is named after. I think it's the same guy because I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and the college Muhlenberg is, one of the Henry Muhlenberg. I believe it's the same guy. He was a German Lutheran, and I think it's the same guy. So Muhlenberg was this guy. The reenactment they did of him is that he gave this he preached this famous sermon where he was basically pilling his congregation on the fact that they would have to fight for independence, and he, in the middle of the sermon, removed his clerical robes to reveal a military uniform underneath.
Ah, yes.
And that's it.
Beautiful.
I'm sure that was very stirring at the time. I mean, they didn't have Instagram, they didn't have TikTok. Like,
I mean, it would be no matter what he was wearing underneath to start taking your clothes off in front of the congregation. It would be very memorable.
It would be.
Very impactful.
It really, really would be. And I fuck with Mr. Muhlenberg, Pastor Muhlenberg. He was a Lutheran, like me. Okay. And he was German. And he... I don't really remember much. Who cares? But yeah, he removed his clerical robes to reveal a military uniform. And that was very swaggy and cool. And so it was nice to see a man act that out for us. I'm kind of jumping around, but I meant to bring this up when we were talking about atheists and deists earlier. Do you remember that guy Ingersoll? I'm going to remember his first name now. Because, okay, Robert G. Ingersoll. They mention him in this documentary. You can look him up on Wikipedia. Nicknamed the Great Agnostic, he was an American lawyer, writer, and orator during the golden age of free thought who campaigned in defense of agnosticism. And he was brought up in this documentary. He was literally like the original amazing atheist.
Yes.
And
no, I think he
inspired...
the Great Agnostic was an atheist.
Ingersoll, titled by the press as the Great Agnostic, was the national evangelist for atheism. In his conversation with General Wallace, Ingersoll first forcefully asserted that there was no God, no devil, and no afterlife, and then challenged Wallace to try to prove that Jesus was the Son of God.
Yeah, that was the line he said, which was pretty funny.
What the Wallbuilders had to say. In my notes, I wrote, Ingersoll, the first atheist. He looks like a psycho egghead. He inspired General Lew Wallace to go to Israel. There was and then General Lew Wallace was in a debate or something with him, and he Ingersoll tried to own him with logic and reason, as atheists do, and I guess Lew Wallace was dissatisfied with his own inability to own Ingersoll back with Christian logic and reason, and so Lew Wallace, who was a Civil War general. So he was a general later. The timeline's not adding up here. Lew Wallace was born in the 1800s. Why are they talking about this guy? Anyways, the point is that guy was inspired by the amazing atheist, and he ended up writing the book Ben-Hur, which I didn't know. That a Civil War general wrote Ben-Hur, which became the greatest book of all time to many. And Ulysses S. Grant wrote an official proclamation that was y'all got to read Ben-Hur. It's good for America.
I did kind of do a double take then where I was why are you emphasizing that he wrote Ben-Hur? Who, I don't mean who cares, but in this context, who cares?
Yeah, I agree. And also I just put together right now that the Civil War, I mean, this is so obvious, but the Civil War is fucking a long time after.
Well, I don't know about you, but I consider anyone who died before I was born to be a forefather.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. They were a forefather of me.
Mm-hmm. Anybody who died before David Barton was born, that's our criteria.
Is one of his forefathers.
Yeah.
That's valid.
He has a good intent.
He does. And intent is everything. That's what we've learned from the Wallbuilders. And if you can just sort of pretend what someone intended and those intentions were good, then even better. And I don't know. We might have, there was so much information in this. We might certainly bring up other just random thoughts and facts and stuff like that. But I still want to know why. Okay. If we are able to name all the people who wrote the Constitution, All fucking like 46 of them, not just the big ones. Not just Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, like blah, blah, blah. If we are able to name all of them, if we know that they were Christian, and not just any type of Christian, evangelical Christian, they were in the trenches fucking teaching John 3:16 to Pocahontas.
Yup.
And they were like writing Bibles and printing Bibles and distributing Bibles and giving speeches about how you should read the Bible.
A lot of these guys were in the American Bible Society that he brought up.
Yeah. I still want to know, what am I, a person of today, supposed to do with this information? And also I want to know, just tell me, Wallbuilders, tell me, how does I wrote this down. Let me just read what I wrote in my notes. The point of this documentary is mainly to assert that the founding fathers were Christians, but so far it hasn't said why that was important or how that should influence our contemporary culture and policy. Obviously it's important to them. There's Mr. Barton, the Wallbuilders, they're standing on their fucking pulpit. They're saying, you have to know this, put this in motion. What policy are they proposing? What cultural changes are they proposing? Should everyone be Christian? I mean, yes.
Yeah, everyone should be Christian and everyone should be reading the Bible and be taught the Bible and taking that seriously, and should be running for politics and making new Bibles. Did I miss anything?
I mean, those are the big. They should be ripping off their clerical robes and like revealing their military robes underneath. Yeah. But like, should everyone be Christian? Should America be a politically Christian nation? Like, I just wish that's what I think they're saying, but they don't say it. And I want to know, are you saying that like you should not be allowed to be Muslim in this country? You should not be allowed to be Jewish in this country? Is that what you're saying? Because they have a right to say that if that's what they feel, but they don't say it.
Yeah, that's true. They don't say it. Yeah, I don't know. They're not being specific. I was just going to say that they focus so much on George Washington, and they ended even with showing that it was like a big part of the ending was showing that stained glass where George Washington was praying. And
he would like pray on one knee.
Yeah, from these documents he's holding, what he's read, that people said that is how he prayed commonly. And there's that verse from Psalms listed around him.
Cool. So did he face the city of Mecca when he did that? I'm assuming no.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't know. Like maybe there's a primary source on that. But that's what I want them to know. I feel contempt for people who go through so much pain and effort, and they spend money and they organize and they write a script and they research and they do all these things. They write books and they say, this is the history of America. This is the Christian history of America. You need to know this. I'm going to make a whole organization where I say that we need to know this. Okay, you've led me to the doorway. Now walk me through it. What do you want me to do? Should I, or what, not me specifically, what do you want America to do? Do you want them to get rid of the amendment that says like people have a freedom to religion? Like they wrote that one like early on. And like, let me just like review, like, let me just read this fucking amendment. I'm going live on the mic, uncensored, unfiltered. I am going to read the First Amendment. Here's what it says.
To be clear, this is a a forefathers written amendment.
Yeah, this is a forefathers written amendment. When did they write this? First Amendment to the Constitution. It was adopted on December 15th, 1791. So that's a forefathers ass amendment. Here's what it says. The First Amendment provides that Congress make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting its free exercise. Wait, is that the exact text? Hang on a second. Yeah, hold on. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Does that just mean like does religion just mean Christianity to them? No, because they had the power to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they would have said.
So it's like, I'm sorry, but like, yes, I genuinely believe that all of or most of the people in that room were probably fucking Christians. Like, of course they were. And maybe even, I mean, they were like printing Bibles and shit. Of course they were Christians. It was important to them. But are the Wallbuilders saying that they intended America to be a specifically Christian nation? If so, then why did they write that First Amendment? Just say it has to be Christian. That was in 1791. That was so long ago. They could have said it.
That's so, and it's like, so it's the first one. It's the first one.
It's the first one. I remember I think Julian said something on one of our earlier episodes where he was like, one thing I don't understand about how people are like, the Constitution is so important. It's like the most perfect document ever. Then why did they immediately be like, oh shit, we forgot a bunch of stuff? And like, well, that really gave me pause. I was like, that's a really good point. I mean, I guess I'm glad they wrote the other stuff, but it's like, couldn't they have thought of that right away?
Well, he did point out that there was a strong reliance on divine providence.
After all, in the Declaration of Independence, our founders had announced to the world that they were proceeding, quote, with a firm reliance on divine providence.
Well,
in the beginning, right. So, there was more coming.
So, yeah, again, I guess you're right. This feeds back into the argument we identified earlier where, Mr. Barton is saying that because they didn't have to write everything down because they just assumed everyone was going to be Christian. I don't know. It's still not adding up to me. Why, if they were so explicit about the Christianity in their writings, did they not say in the First Amendment that everything had to be Christian?
Right, because most of his argument is based on writings that he's supposedly holding in his hands, although now I'm second guessing if he was what he really was holding. But most of it's based on there being forefathers saying, and I'm a devout Christian and I'm praying for you, and things, or a friend of that said forefather being like, wow, you're such a devout Christian.
Right.
Thanks for praying for me.
Like, I think he is like cheapening the founding fathers' original vision, because this is my take on it as, not a historian, but my take on it is that the founding fathers were majority explicitly Christian. They believed in evangelicism. I buy that. I'm like, yes. But they recognized that they wanted to establish a state of religious freedom, thinking that for them, that doesn't mean they still wouldn't want to evangelize, but they wanted to establish a state where people were free to choose to be saved, because they acknowledged that that was the only authentic way to be saved, was to enter into that contract with God of your own free will.
Which is not something that comes up in this documentary.
No, and it's just like, that's what I don't get. It's just like, I just feel like, Mr. Barton, you're so close, but you're so far away. Like, what have we said so many times on this podcast? It's like the same rule of film as it is with Christianity. It's like, show, don't tell. Like, make an appealing case for people to convert to Christianity. Don't say that it should be the law.
Right. And maybe he had to dig up literature on these forefathers talking about being Christian because they believed in what you're saying. Like, actions speak louder than words.
Right.
And, be humble. Pride goeth before the fall.
Yep.
And they're not trying to like preach for clout. They're like really about it.
Exactly. Like, that is a more powerful message to me. And like, I would have absolutely no problem with a Christian saying, like, look at these like powerful Christian men who founded our nation. Like, they are great examples of American Christianity in action. Like, I would be like, yeah. But, for David Barton and the rest of his like Wallbuilder crew to make movie after movie, this is not the only movie they've made. They've made several. To make movie after movie, just like asserting that, oh no, everyone needs to know this. We've lost our way. We like lost our way from what? Like, this is the result, a couple hundred years of culture and, thinking and development has gone by, but like, we are to this day a state where you are not forced by the state to practice a religion. Like, I know that Christians are offended a lot because their religion is seen as uncool, because culturally it has historically been a majority here. And it's not always, it might not be the case now, but that's the historical precedent. And we are a nation of contrarians. And if that's the case, people are like, oh, your religion is uncool. I get why that is frustrating. But that's their right. You have a right to evangelicize the same way that people on Reddit can say that Christians are evil.
Yeah.
We need all these things. That's America.
Yeah. And frankly, no matter what you're into, you can find people who will say terrible things about it.
Oh my God, that's true. And that's our right.
No matter what it is.
That is like literally our right. Like,
and that's our right because that's how the forefathers wrote it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best conclusion I can draw from it. And so again, like, to reiterate, that is my biggest problem with Wallbuilders. I just feel like they're not cowardly enough to say what they're thinking. They sort of write it between the lines. And two, what I assume they're thinking. Now, again, I'm prefacing it saying that I'm assuming because they don't say it directly. What I assume they're thinking is just like a misinterpretation of American values.
I'm looking at their website again. I'm in the About section. And it says, Wallbuilders, their name is taken from the Old Testament story of Nehemiah, who led a grassroots movement to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem and restore its strength and honor. In the same way, Wallbuilders seeks to energize people to become involved in strengthening their communities, states, and nation. Do you think they do that with this?
With this movie?
Yeah, with the doc.
I don't know. I want to say no because I don't understand what I'm supposed to be galvanized to do. Like, knowledge is power. Like, I'm glad that I learned that John Quincy Adams was like, oh, he could do musket drills when he was 8 years old. Like, that's cool. I mean, if I remember that 3 weeks from now, I deserve a prize, but I remember it right now. I remember it right now. And I don't know how with that knowledge, am going to go forth and heal our nation. I mean, is this just like the Christian magical thinking that we see time and time again? That, like, to compare it to one of our favorite movies, Let There Be Light, if we all hold our flashlights up at the sky, it will defeat ISIS?
Well, I feel that still might work. We still haven't tried it.
It's true. They've proposed it. We haven't actually tried it. But so it's like worth
give
a
things
shot.
a try. Yeah.
It's worth a shot, but yeah, it's like when that movie ends and they say text everyone in your phone book, like, let there be light. Okay, I'll do that. But what has that accomplished per se?
Okay. What's the biggest crime in the United States? Is it like tax evasion or wage theft? It's like one of the two.
That sounds right. I was going to say crimes of fashion, but it's probably one of those two.
Dang. Okay. Well, we're going to say it's not crimes of fashion because that's
okay.
We can't fix that.
No,
it's too big of a problem.
Sure.
But for something like exploiting large amounts of people
sure.
and committing crime that way, which is you're committing crimes against many people at once. That's usually just a handful of people doing that. So like maybe if we just get those people Bibles, well, I guess we have to get them to read the Bibles.
Right. But getting the Bibles would be a start. I mean, they can't read the Bibles if they don't have the Bibles.
True.
But yeah, what you're saying is go on.
Well, because they said Bible is the best thing to prevent crime. So at least you just start with the biggest crimes and then like work out from there. See what happens putting the Bible in those people's hands.
Yes. So, okay.
Is that what they're saying?
Research. I think so. I mean, you're following it to its logical conclusion. I'm Googling. I don't know what this will turn up. Biggest crime in the United States. Let's find out. Let's start at the top.
Does it say crimes of fashion?
It does not, I'm afraid. So this is violent crime. Okay. So we're talking about property crimes and violent crimes here. So that might not even encounter, what you were just talking about, like financial crimes, but the biggest property crime is larceny/theft. And the biggest violent crime is aggravated assault. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
theft.
So we need to get all the thieves. I have an idea. Let's put expensive looking Bibles in very obvious places. So thieves steal the Bibles. Because I'm actually like, this is really fucking smart. We make them think they're stealing it. They get the satisfaction of stealing it because they have thieving hearts. They don't know that we've left it out for them to take because then it won't be satisfying to them. And then they possess the Bible. And then because they're so satisfied, they associate the Bible with something they like to do, which is to steal. Then they read the Bible, and then Bible solve all problems.
And then the Bible made their life better, and that was only because they stole it. Right. So, the intent there was that because, because if you like stole like a famous Geneva Bible that's in really good condition,
right,
and then turned that into. Oh, well, let me think. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then you get a positive association with stealing, like you're saying. But it's because of the Bible.
Yeah. And then in the Geneva Bible, in the nasty little notes in the margins, you learned that private property was a good thing. And then you were like, well, that's good because now this Geneva Bible is my private property.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Should we be reading the Geneva Bible?
I think we should start a Geneva Bible Geneva Bible study.
Okay.
We should read the nasty notes in the Geneva Bible, and we should see what it teaches us about, monarchy, the free market, things of that nature.
Julian won't question this because he's a true patriot. He'll understand.
I like the idea of like him coming back next week and we're just talking about the Geneva Bible, and he's like, "What the fuck are you guys on about?"
And then we'll be like, Julian, I thought you're the American history expert on our podcast.
American history expert. Anything else?
And that's the pod, folks.
Let's say some wrap up thoughts from this. Just like any funny random facts, because we're a little long, but this is also fun. I liked the story. The story of Joseph's story, who's I guess a founding father. I literally don't remember, but he literally like became a Unitarian and then regretted it, and that was like why he talked about this. He like wrote a letter that was like, "I am so sorry that I was ever a Unitarian." Because they're always saying that George Washington was like a Unitarian, and then Mr. Dalton was like, no. There were very few Unitarians, and the ones that did regretted it because they couldn't do it.
They didn't have the full truth.
No, clearly not.
I forget who said it, but I like the guy who was talking about his belief in the Trinity.
Ooh, the Trinity.
Just the way he'd said it was a little different than I was familiar with.
I believe that there is one only living and true God, existing in three persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The scriptures of the Old and New Testaments are a revelation from God and a complete rule to direct us how we may glorify and enjoy Him. But the first man sinned, and as they all became sinners in consequence of his first transgression, are liable to all the miseries of this life, to death, and to the pains of hell forever.
And then there was a guy like 49 minutes in who had like a funny voice. They were like doing a sillier voice than necessary. I appreciated that.
Don't tell Gwen Shamblin Lara that this nation was founded on belief in the Trinity.
No, that's
famously denied it.
That's right.
Famously denied it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of, it's a lot to take in. A Trinity.
Yeah.
I appreciated the magic of that in my head when I was younger. Because I was like, I was like, that makes sense that there's like one of many things about God that I can't comprehend. It's God.
Right.
Like
I mean,
being
the Trinity,
all one and separate. Like, why would I be able to wrap my head around that? What am I, a god?
Right. Well, the Trinity is like, it's a great way to explain like why Jesus is there.
Yeah.
And like why,
because otherwise
Jesus is God.
Jesus feels a little bit like a First Amendment.
Exactly. No, you're exactly.
The flood is the Constitution. Like the flood is the Revolutionary War. Wait, which one is it? You know what I'm saying. And then the rainbow is the Constitution.
Yeah. And then Jesus is the First Amendment.
Then it turns out with the rainbow, that was not a full, complete thing.
Yes.
Because it didn't work out quite right. Didn't think of everything. So, or the divine providence was not there yet, rather. I mean, it's not a matter of not thinking about everything. Right. It's a matter of doing things in God's time, which will happen if you follow the Geneva Bible.
Right.
Which is the Bible that Moses had.
I like the idea of the rainbow being amended because that's like what they do with the pride flags, where they add like weird symbols and colors every year.
Yep.
Oh, I just thought of something going back to Joseph's story. I just thought of Unitarian regret Snoopy. I'm gonna try to share that with her. She will have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another random thing for the documentary. I love the times when he invokes the fact that like some of the founding fathers, they used Christian law to argue against the practice of slavery. Again, showing how, Christians, they were on the right side of history with regards to slavery.
No
to which I
Christians
say,
owned
yes,
slaves.
I'm sure none of them did, right? No one who called himself a Christian owned slaves.
Nope.
I mean, listen. Basically, same thing I said at the beginning of this. What's that?
Not my forefathers.
Not my forefathers. I mean, basically, again, the same thing that I said earlier in this documentary. All of human history has been people believing that the way they like to live their lives is correctly interpreting their religious beliefs. Like, I'm sure there were people in history who used Christianity to justify their owning of slaves, the same way that there were many who used Christianity to argue against owning slaves. And both probably thought they were correct.
There were specific verses that people would cite for, I forget what it was.
I'm sure
heard
there
it
were
on another pod a few months ago. But they would use to like justify slavery.
I'm sure. So this is what I'm saying. Wallbuilders. Just work on your thesis a little bit and say what you actually want to say. I will respect you more. I'll be like, okay, you're cooking. Like, I might not agree, but like, you're cooking, And
Wallbuilders is a weird name too, even though I get that they're doing the reference of rebuilding something. It's a reference to rebuilding something, which is nice. That's a nice thought. Specifically, building a wall is not how you strengthen a community.
I know. I mean,
generally speaking,
it doesn't help their cause that the concept of, building a wall has in the past, like 8 years been kind of memed, with the Trump presidency. Like now when we hear the phrase build the wall, we associate it with a border, with keeping people out. But I remember it's always been, people have always said, like, why build walls when we can build bridges?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or
a
now
wall has always been associated with borders.
Now our next president is saying that he's taken it up a notch. Why build walls when we can build our own Iron Dome?
That's a really good point. Like, why? I like that he's increased. He's become more ambitious. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's thinking bigger.
Meanwhile, our vice president is saying, why build walls when we can plant a coconut tree? Well, I would say we built a lot of walls today. We built a lot of walls that protect our own ideologies from any new information. And we, by spending time watching a conservative Christian history documentary when I could have been, I don't know, dating or seeing my friends, I built a wall around myself, alienating me from the people who love me.
Now that you put it like that, I guess I kind of do that in my own everyday life, just with the movies I watch in general.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I'm going to cultivate an experience that I would not want to have anyone else join me on.
Almost nobody else can relate to, whether they want to or not.
Exactly.
Wow.
So we're all sort of wall builders here. It really is. It really is.
Wow.
But maybe to those listening, it felt more like a bridge. I appreciate those folks who do relate. But should we review?
Watching spiritual heritage of the United States Capitol, a video tour with David Barton. It kind of felt like he built a wall with Geneva Bibles, steps with Geneva Bibles. You can walk up the steps to the top of this wall, and at the top of this wall, there it is, George Washington's iPhone, the first iPhone.
Wow.
And in it, It's unlocked. He's a trusting guy. He has full faith. No password protection, which would be unlockable because of his wooden teeth. You wouldn't be able to get around it to match that face. And you see on the front image is a cross, just a cross. And then you open the phone. It's another cross inside, and on the cross is a crucified praying mantis. And then you look into his phone and you see some talks about Christian stuff. And then as you're going, you realize he's not talking about humans, though. He's talking about insects. He's talking about bugs. And he's talking about the bug agenda and the bug god. And the plan is to make an environment in the earth that is best for bugs and to advance the bug agenda as much as possible, to make trillions more bugs than any humans there could be. And the only way that humans can even get close enough to being in the same vein of bugs is to build their own network to create a new type of hive mind similar to bugs that can be controlled by one person at a time. And the only way to advance that and sell it to the most elite people was to eventually get around to, George Washington prophesied that there would be another book that would come along to go with the Bible, the Book of Mormon. And so this would lead to being able to, you can't be a bug on Earth, but if you're a good enough, pure enough American, you will eventually, in the afterlife, have your own kingdom, be your own god of your own hive. And that's like what the queen of any type of ant or termite or bug hive in general is. It's the purest of men, American men. That's the peak of reincarnation. You control like thousands, hundreds of thousands of a horde with your brain. And that's the bug agenda and the bug god. And that's what I got out of this movie. Is that what you got?
Wow. Well, no. But you expressed it more straightforwardly than anything the Wallbuilders did. So I'm nodding along. I'm right there with you.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it's possible. And I think intent is everything. That's something I learned from this documentary. So we start from there.
I think this doc goes hand in hand with Starship Troopers.
Yes. I really like what you set up as like the prequel to Starship Troopers. Like I definitely think like, Verhoeven was tapping into that, when adapting the script for this film, for Starship Troopers. He was like, he understood the American spirit in the way you described it. But
I actually like to think of Verhoeven as one of our forefathers, even though he didn't die before I was born.
Is. He understands American culture better than anyone. He's reflected it back at us in ways that we love. What would you rate this documentary?
Oh yeah, I got caught up in my bug truths. Whew. I loved the reenactments. How many forefathers were there?
Somewhere between like 36 and 46.
Okay, so I'm going to give this somewhere between 36 and 46 out of 36 and 46 forefathers, including the faceless one. I forget his name.
Oh, the faceless forefather. That was so awesome. They only painted the top of his head.
They said he just never took a selfie, but maybe he just didn't have a face. Doesn't matter.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We still love him. Can't remember his name. Don't know his face, but we love him. So, one wall built.
I bet he was the time traveling forefather. That's why.
Oh, well, yeah, that's he might be a celebrity, a contemporary celebrity that we love, but he was also doubled as a that's why he never showed his face.
Yep.
As for me, I really enjoyed. I honestly learned quite a lot of very interesting American facts, and I'm gonna have to give a spiritual tour of the heritage of the United States Capitol, a spiritual heritage tour. You know what I'm saying. I'm going to have to give it 1 out of 1 statue of an astronaut. Because fun fact, there is just like a statue, I believe, of a generic astronaut in the rotunda of the United States Capitol building.
Wow.
He takes a lot of care to be like, they are very limited and exclusive with who they honor with a statue here. But they did also just build a statue of an astronaut. So a lot
Careful
to
what you're
unravel.
saying. That's one of our forefathers you're talking about.
That's for real. No, that is some real forefather shit. I mean, George Washington crossed the Delaware, but he did not live long enough to see himself cross through Earth's atmosphere to a world outside of our own. So I gotta say, congratulations to the Wallbuilders. If we ever feel like watching another 2-hour documentary about, that's like the equivalent of going on a field trip with your most deranged middle school history teacher, we will watch another Wallbuilders film. We'll see. But until then, thank you very much for listening to our show. If it's your first time here, at boysbiblestudy.com is where you can listen to all of our free episodes. But if you want bonus content to hear Boys Bible Study episodes every single week, please pledge at patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, for it is there where we post our secret bonus episodes. And you will really like those. Double the content. Also, shout out to our patron saints at the $20 tier: Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Rhett, and Mark, our founding fathers. We appreciate you all very much. Also, our outro song is "Oh My God" by Mary, sort of our national anthem. So from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
That's what
that was a forefather voice.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take